Rowan Hale adjusted the 80-pound pack on his shoulders and looked back down the steep granite incline. Peluri wasn't moving. The tall, blue-grey Thisani exchange student stood paralyzed against the cliff face, her limbs trembling. Her joints had locked completely rigid, a biological response he assumed was just altitude fatigue. A wrist scanner blared from her sleeve in harsh, digitized English. GHES, gravity, 9.81 OT. This exerts recommended habitation limits by 340%. Rowan smiled warmly, completely oblivious that his guest was experiencing a crushing force. He gestured to the vertical rock face ahead. You want to take the stairs or scramble up the scree? How she survived the next hour is still a mystery. You will want to hear how this expedition ends. Trust me on that. 3 hours earlier, the trailhead had seemed perfectly safe. Peluri had booked Rowan for a basic geological survey. As an archaeology student, she was ostensibly there to study the soil of a planet that had survived 5 mass extinctions. Rowan, a mountain guide who climbed vertical walls for fun, assumed she just wanted a brisk morning hike. He didn't know that Thesanis evolved on a world with a fraction of Earth's gravity. He only noticed she looked incredibly stiff when she stepped out of the transport shuttle. Her posture was locked upright, and her breathing sounded intensely shallow. Rowan simply offered her a bright, enthusiastic wave and handed her a walking stick she seemed to struggle to lift. The incline started gradually. Rowan moved with an effortless, bouncing stride. He kept tossing his heavy, water-filled Nalgene bottle into the air and catching it. Thwack. The plastic hit his palm. Rowan noticed Peluri flinching every time the dense object dropped. She stared at the falling bottle as if watching a lethal physics demonstration, her dark eyes wide as his casual reflexes intercepted the sudden descent. The rhythmic, heavy crunch of his hiking boots against the dirt made her wince as if the heavy sound was a constant auditory reminder of the planet dragging everything downward. Nice day for it, Rowan called over his shoulder, missing the way Peluri's chest heaved with every single step. The trail turned sharply upward, transforming from a walk into a steep climb. The air grew thinner. Peluri's blue-grey skin began to pale to a chalky slate. Her movements slowed to a mechanical, agonizing crawl. She lifted her legs to clear the boulders as if she were dragging lead weights through deep mud. Her wrist scanner began to emit a low, persistent whine, flashing angry red symbols. Rowan couldn't translate. The alien's device shrieked an automated English warning about imminent structural failure of her exoskeleton, right before Rowan cheerfully asked if she needed a water break. He had barely broken a sweat. He leaned casually against a massive pine tree, letting the planet's gravity hold him comfortably in place, assuming she was just a little winded. By the time they reached the granite incline, Peluri's biological fail-safes fully activated. Her joints locked rigid to prevent her hollow bones from snapping under the relentless 9.81 meters per second squared. Every step was a brutal battle against the planet itself. Meanwhile, Rowan's pace never faltered. The rhythmic, heavy crunch of his hiking boots against the dirt echoed off the stone. It was a terrifying, repetitive broadcast of Earth's relentless downward drag, pulling everything inevitably into its crust. If the sheer atmospheric density didn't crush her internal organs, wait, did he just jog over that boulder? He did. He actually bounded upward, carrying a pack that weighed more than a mature Thisani, defying the lethal physics with horrifying ease. Gravity here was not just a metric, it was an invisible predator holding her hostage. Her scanner screamed a final desperate warning as her biology finally surrendered. Rowan stopped and looked back down the steep incline. He adjusted the 80-pound pack on his shoulders. He didn't see an alien exchange student experiencing full biological shutdown. He just saw a tourist needing a little motivation. He smiled warmly. You want to take the stairs or scramble up the scree? A scree is fun, but it's a bit loose. There are no stairs. Peluri managed to whisper, her vocal cords straining against the atmospheric pressure. This is a vertical wall. Oh, it's just a little rock scramble, Rowan laughed. The sheer absurdity of the conversation broke something in Peluri's analytical mind. The gravity here was a lethal 1G. She had asked him earlier how his species compensated for it. Compensate for what? He had replied. Now, staring at this sheer cliff, she realized they didn't compensate. They played in it. They sought out the steepest angles of their death world just to challenge the physics that should have kept them flattened. I can't, she breathed. The gravity. Seeing her absolute stillness, Rowan's smile softened. He climbed back down, entirely unfazed by the vertical drop, and gently touched her shoulder. The warmth of his hand was a stark contrast to the cold, unforgiving stone. Hey, it's okay. Take a breath. He didn't mock her terror. He didn't understand the physics of her nightmare. He just unclipped her heavy gear, added it to his own monstrous pack, and offered his hand. I've got you. It was an absurd display of localized strength. He didn't just survive the crushing environment, he actively bent it to help someone weaker, becoming a living counterweight to the planet. She survived the mountain. The official Thisani Archaeological Survey concluded with a formal recommendation to never return. Earth's terrifying downward pull was not a localized anomaly, but a planetary constant that the native species openly embraced. The crushing force that had paralyzed her joints and threatened to shatter her skeletal structure was simply a mundane reality to them, an invisible blanket pulling them firmly against the dirt in a state of permanent, inescapable embrace they fondly called feeling grounded. Do not send further delegations without a full environmental hazard briefing. Also, bring a better scanner because hers had officially resigned.